Welcome to another AP Human Geography topic walkthrough, brought to you by Mr. Michael, Social Studies teacher. This video is here to help you fill out your lecture notes, understand the big ideas, and maybe even laugh once or twice. So grab your notes and let's get started.
Welcome to Topic 2.5, the Demographic Transition Model. This model is basically the life story of a country's population, how it grows, slows, and sometimes even shrinks. Think of it as a 5-stage journey, but instead of boss fights or level ups, you've got birth rates, death rates, and some seriously dramatic population pyramids. By the end of this lesson, you'll see why some countries are exploding with growth, while others are worrying about how to pay for all those retirement homes. Here's what we're tackling today: the big theories behind how populations grow and decline. First up, the demographic transition model. This one shows how populations shift over time from high birth and death rates to much lower ones as societies develop. Then, the epidemiological transition model. Think of it as the cause of death chart through history, moving from famine and plagues to chronic diseases like heart problems or cancer. By connecting these two models, we'll get a clearer picture of why populations change, not just the fact that they do. Here's where the real journey begins: the demographic transition model, or DTM. At its core, demography is just the study of population statistics, things like births, deaths, and overall growth. The DTM takes those numbers and turns them into a model that shows how populations change over time. On the graph, you can see the 5 stages: birth rates, death rates, and natural increase, all shifting as societies move from pre-industrial to modern. Down below, those population pyramids give us a snapshot of what each stage looks like in real life. Before we dive deep into the demographic transition model, here's a quick preview of something closely connected: the epidemiological transition model, or ETM. This model looks at predictable stages of disease and life expectancy that countries go through as they develop. For example, in the earliest stages, populations struggle with famine and epidemics. Later on, as societies modernize, chronic illnesses like heart disease or cancer become more common. The ETM lines up with the stages of the DTM, but we're going to hold off on exploring this one until after we've worked through all 5 stages of the DTM. So keep this chart in the back of your mind. It'll make a lot more sense once we've covered the basics of population change. All right, let's kick off the demographic transition model with stage 1, the historic starting line. Here, both birth rates and death rates are high. Families have lots of kids, not because they're trying to form a soccer team, but because survival is uncertain. High infant and child mortality rates meant many children didn't live to adulthood. Plus, in agricultural societies, kids were basically the farmhands of the future. On the flip side, death rates stayed high due to famine, poor diets, disease, and constant warfare. Life expectancy was short, and population growth barely moved, what we call a low natural increase rate. You'll notice on the chart that no countries today are stuck in stage 1. It's a historic stage. Think pre-industrial societies before modern medicine and sanitation. The population pyramid for this stage is bottom-heavy, showing a huge youth dependency. Stage 2 is where things start to get interesting. Population growth takes off. Birth rates stay high, just like in stage 1. Families are still having lots of children, but here's the big shift. Death rates begin to fall. Improvements in nutrition, sanitation, and basic medicine mean more people survive childhood and live longer. The result? A rapidly growing population, shown on the graph as that widening gap between birth and death rates. This is why the natural increase rate shoots up during this stage. Many least developed countries, like Niger, Mali, and South Sudan, are in stage 2 today. Their population pyramids are still very bottom-heavy, with lots of youth dependency, but now those younger generations are surviving in greater numbers. Stage 2 is basically population growth on fast forward. Stage 3 is where population growth begins to slow down. Birth rates start to fall because families no longer need as many children. Urbanization makes kids more expensive to raise. Fewer farmhands, more school fees. On top of that, as women gain access to education and employment, they often delay marriage and childbearing. Death rates also continue to decline, though more gradually now, thanks to improvements in healthcare, medicine, and overall living conditions. This combination means the natural increase rate slows, even though the total population is still growing. On the chart, notice how the gap between birth and death rates narrows. The population pyramid also starts to shift. Still youthful, but not as extreme as in stage 2. Stage 3 is basically when societies move from baby boom to okay, maybe just 2 kids and a dog. Stage 3 isn't just theory. Lots of real-world countries are here right now. Many semi-periphery countries like Turkey, Mexico, Indonesia, and India fit this stage. Their populations are still relatively young, but because people are living longer, we start to see more balance between younger and older age groups. The pyramid shape flattens out a bit, fewer children at the bottom, more people surviving into adulthood and beyond. So, while stage 2 was like population sprinting ahead, stage 3 is more of a jog. Still growing, but at a slower, steadier pace. Stage 4 is where populations finally level off. Birth rates drop to low levels, staying about the same as in stage 3. Families choose to have fewer children, partly because life expectancy is now much higher, and partly because raising kids in modern societies is expensive, from daycare to college tuition. Death rates are also low, as healthcare and technology continue to extend lifespans. The result? The natural increase rate falls and then stabilizes, meaning overall growth slows way down. Most more developed countries, like China, Australia, Canada, South Korea, and the United States, fall into this stage. The population composition also starts shifting toward an older society, with more elderly people compared to children. Basically, it's the stage where retirement homes become just as important as schools. Stage 5 is where things get tricky. Some geographers even debate if it should officially be called a stage. Here, birth rates drop so low that they barely reach replacement level, or even sink below it. This means countries may hit zero population growth or even begin to shrink. Death rates remain low thanks to advanced medical care, but with fewer births, the natural increase rate turns negative or stays very low. Examples include Japan and Germany, where aging populations and fewer young people are creating major economic and social challenges. The population composition in this stage tilts heavily toward the elderly. High elderly dependency ratios mean fewer workers are supporting more retirees. Imagine a seesaw where the grandparents suddenly outweigh the grandkids. Here's the big picture. All 5 stages of the demographic transition model lined up together. On the chart, notice how birth rates, in green, start high, then gradually fall, while death rates, in blue, drop earlier and faster. That gap between them, the shaded section, is the natural increase, showing how populations rise and eventually level off. Down below, the population pyramids give us a snapshot of what each stage looks like. A wide base in stage 1 and stage 2, a more balanced triangle in stage 3, a narrow base with aging populations in stages 4 and 5. This slide is a great summary, kind of like the cheat sheet of the DTM. Keep this mental image handy because now that we've walked through each stage, you'll be able to use this model to understand where different countries fit today and why their populations look the way they do. Now that we've finished the demographic transition model, let's connect it to health and disease with the epidemiological transition model. Stage 1 of the ETM is called pestilence and famine. Here, high death rates are driven by infectious diseases like cholera and tuberculosis, along with pandemics, epidemics, malnutrition, and even animal attacks or accidents. Basically, life was short and often unpredictable. Because of this, both crude birth rates and crude death rates are high, leaving the population with little to no long-term growth. This stage corresponds with stage 1 of the DTM, societies struggling just to survive, with disease and food shortages constantly holding back population growth. In stage 2 of the epidemiological transition model, death rates begin to fall sharply. Why? Because pandemics and infectious diseases start to decline. Thanks to improvements in sanitation, nutrition, and medical advances, diseases like cholera or plague lose their grip on populations. Cities still have their challenges, overcrowding for example, but overall people are surviving much longer. This stage connects with stage 2 of the DTM, where populations grow rapidly because birth rates remain high while death rates drop. So stage 2 of the ETM is basically humanity leveling up with cleaner water, better food, and medicine that actually works. Stage 3 of the epidemiological transition model shifts the spotlight from infectious diseases to chronic illnesses. As populations live longer, the main health challenges become degenerative diseases like heart disease, cancer, and other illnesses often tied to aging and lifestyle choices. Think less about plagues and more about problems connected to diet, smoking, stress, or inactivity. Death rates are still relatively low, but they no longer drop as dramatically as before. Populations are healthier overall, but new long-term health issues start to emerge. This stage aligns with stage 3 of the DTM, where birth rates are falling, life expectancy is rising, and societies are dealing with the side effects of modernization. In stage 4 of the epidemiological transition model, people are living longer than ever before, and that changes the health picture once again. Chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, and dementia are still present, but thanks to medical advances, healthier lifestyles, and technology, their impact is delayed. In other words, people don't necessarily avoid these illnesses, but they often experience them much later in life. This stage connects with stage 4 of the DTM, where populations stabilize and societies deal with aging communities. So in short, stage 4 is all about buying time. Populations are healthier, treatments are better, and life expectancy continues to climb. But age-related diseases still remain the main health challenge. Stage 5 is a reminder that disease never truly disappears. Here we see the re-emergence of infectious diseases, old enemies making a comeback. Why? Because bacteria and parasites can adapt, becoming resistant to antibiotics and vaccines. Add in global travel, urbanization, and climate change, and suddenly diseases can spread faster than ever. Recent examples include Ebola outbreaks and, of course, COVID-19, which showed just how quickly the world can be impacted by a new pandemic. In this stage, even though countries may be highly developed, their populations are still vulnerable to global health threats. It's like the plot twist where the villain you thought was gone reappears in the sequel. Let's do a quick recap of what we've covered. The demographic transition model showed us how populations change through 5 stages, from high birth and death rates in pre-industrial societies, to modern countries where growth has slowed or even turned negative. Then, we connected that to the epidemiological transition model, which explains how causes of death shift over time, from famine and plague to chronic diseases, and even the re-emergence of infectious threats like COVID-19. Together, these two models give us a powerful way to understand not just how populations grow and decline, but why those changes happen. Alright, here's your bonus question. Think about the demographic transition model and the epidemiological transition model. Where do you think your own country fits right now? And what evidence can you point to, Big C, like birth rates, life expectancy, or major health issues, to back up your answer? Go ahead and drop your answer in the comments for a chance to earn a bonus point on your assessment. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button.